In the rugged mountains of Nevada, where wild horses roam free across endless desert landscapes, there existed a Mustang that nobody wanted. His name was Apollo, and by every standard measurement used in the horse industry, he was considered a complete failure. While other Mustangs from his herd commanded thousands of dollars at government auctions, Apollo stood in the corner of the Bureau of Land Management holding facility, overlooked and unwanted. If this incredible story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We share amazing stories that prove miracles happen every day. Ring that notification bell so you never miss these heartwarming tales. And comment below too. Tell us about a time you discovered hidden value in something others had dismissed. At 4 years old, Apollo should have been the pride of any rancher's stable. A magnificent wild stallion, ready to become either a prized riding horse or valuable breeding stock. Instead, he was barely 14 hands high, significantly smaller than the other Mustangs his age. His coat was a dull brown rather than the striking black paint or palomino patterns that buyers sought. His mane was thin and wispy, lacking the flowing magnificence that made wild horses so desirable to collectors and enthusiasts. But Apollo's physical shortcomings were just the beginning of his problems. Unlike other Mustangs who displayed the spirited wildness that buyers expected from Nevada's legendary herds, Apollo was withdrawn and seemingly broken, while other horses would rear and fight against human contact, displaying the untamed spirit that made them valuable. Apollo would simply stand quietly, showing none of the fire that potential buyers wanted to see. What made Apollo even more unusual was his strange behavior around certain people. He would approach some visitors to the facility and persistently nuzzle or paw at specific parts of their bodies, behavior that handlers found annoying and disruptive. When potential buyers came to view the horses, Apollo would often focus intensely on one person, sniffing and nudging them in what appeared to be aggressive or inappropriate behavior. "That horse is worthless," declared Sean Brady, a wealthy ranch owner who specialized in training wild Mustangs for wealthy clients. "For years in the wild, and he's got less spirit than a tired old farm horse. Plus, he's got behavioral problems. Keeps bothering people in all the wrong ways. He'll never amount to anything." The government handler, Maria Gonzalez, a seasoned expert who had worked with wild horses for over 25 years, felt differently about Apollo, but kept her opinions to herself. She had noticed things about the young stallion that others missed: his intelligence, his calm observation of everything around him, and most importantly, his intense focus on certain people. What others saw as problematic behavior, Maria suspected might be something else entirely. The Bureau of Land Management hadn't captured Apollo and hundreds of other wild horses to keep them as pets. These government auctions were designed to manage wild horse populations while finding good homes for animals that could no longer survive in increasingly limited wild territories. Every horse had to find a home, and those that didn't sell at auction faced an uncertain future. "I want him moved to the low priority section," the facility manager had ordered. "List him for minimum bid at the next auction. We need The space for horses that actually have a chance of selling. Maria had spent weeks trying to generate interest in Apollo among potential buyers. She contacted horse trainers, reached out to therapeutic riding programs, and even called hobby farmers who might want a gentle horse as a companion animal. But Apollo's reputation had preceded him. Word had gotten around the horse community that the BLM facility had a quote problem Mustang they were desperate to place. Nobody wants a wild horse that doesn't know proper boundaries, one potential buyer had told Maria. What's the point of owning a Mustang if he's going to be constantly bothering people? You can get a well-behaved horse anywhere. What these buyers didn't understand was that Apollo's unusual behavior might not indicate poor training or bad manners. It showed something extraordinary that no one in the horse world had yet recognized. But in an industry that valued conventional behavior and flashy appearance above all else, Apollo's unique qualities were seen as serious defects. The weekly horse auction at Desert Valley Livestock Exchange was typically where Nevada's most prized Mustangs would sell for thousands of dollars. Wild horses from Apollo's mountain range were legendary throughout the Southwest. Magnificent animals that commanded top prices from collectors looking to own a piece of the American West. The auctioneer would often start bidding at $5,000 for a prime Nevada Mustang, with prices frequently climbing much higher. But when Apollo entered the auction ring that scorching hot Tuesday morning, the atmosphere was completely different. The usual excited chatter among buyers died down to uncomfortable murmurs as they watched the small, quiet horse walk calmly around the ring, showing none of the prancing, snorting wildness they expected from a mountain Mustang. Ladies and gentlemen, announced auctioneer Tommy Walsh, a man who had been selling horses for 30 years, we have here a 4-year-old Nevada Mustang from the Cascade Mountain herd. Do I hear an opening bid of, well, let's start at $2,000? Silence filled the auction barn. Tommy tried again, this time dropping the opening bid to $1,000, then $500, then $100. Still no takers. The professional horse buyers in attendance weren't interested in what they saw as a defective animal, and the smaller ranchers couldn't see past Apollo's unconventional behavior to recognize his potential. Do I hear $50? Tommy called out, desperation creeping into his voice. This was approaching the lowest opening bid he had ever called for a Nevada wild horse. More silence. Apollo continued to walk calmly around the ring, occasionally stopping to look at specific people in the crowd with intense focus. Behavior that made potential buyers even more uncomfortable. Finally, a quiet voice called out from the back of the barn, $1. The crowd turned to see who had made such an insulting bid. Standing near the exit was David Johnson, a 72-year-old retired veterinarian who had recently moved to a small ranch after selling his practice in California. David had come to the auction not to buy horses, but simply because he enjoyed watching the magnificent animals and reminiscing about the wild horses he had treated throughout his career. What David had noticed during the auction was something that others had missed entirely. Apollo had been staring intensely at an elderly man in the third row, and David's trained medical eye had noticed that the man looked pale and was sweating despite the cool morning air. Apollo's behavior wasn't random. It was focused and purposeful in a way that reminded David of something he had read about medical detection animals. Tommy Walsh looked confused. In his 3 decades of auctioneering, no one had ever bid just $1 on any horse, let alone a wild Mustang from one of Nevada's most famous herds. "Sir, did you say $1? Tommy asked, thinking he had misheard. "Yes, $1, David replied firmly, walking closer to the ring. Something about Apollo's intense, focused behavior had caught his attention in a way that had nothing to do with horses and everything to do with his decades of experience as a veterinarian. The silence in the barn was deafening. Sean Brady, who was watching from the owner section, shook his head in disgust. Seeing a Nevada Mustang sell for a single dollar was an embarrassment to the entire wild horse program. Going once for $1, Tommy called out, still hoping someone would make a real bid. Going twice. No one else spoke up. The professional buyers weren't about to waste money on what they considered a problematic animal, even for such a low price. Sold for $1 to the gentleman in the blue jacket. And just like that, Apollo became the cheapest wild horse ever sold at Desert Valley Livestock Exchange. What nobody in that auction barn could have predicted was that this worthless $1 horse was about to change David Johnson's life in ways that would shock the entire medical world. David Johnson drove his old pickup truck home, with Apollo secured in a borrowed horse trailer, still unable to believe what he had just done. At 72 years old, he had been retired from veterinary practice for 2 years and had never owned a horse as a personal companion. And here he was with a wild Mustang that had cost him exactly $1, plus the $75 transport fee. David's small ranch consisted of just 20 acres that he had purchased as a retirement retreat. The property included a modest house, a small barn, and several fenced pastures that had been empty since he moved in. David had been considering getting a gentle riding horse to enjoy in his golden years, but something about Apollo's situation had touched his heart in a way he hadn't expected. "Well, Apollo," David said as he helped unload the horse into one of the pastures, "I guess we're both starting new chapters." Apollo stepped carefully out of the trailer and immediately began exploring his new surroundings. Unlike the crowded, stressful environment at the BLM facility, this place was quiet and peaceful. Apollo seemed to sense the difference immediately, lowering his head to graze contentedly in grass that was softer and more abundant than anything he had experienced since his capture. David spent the first week simply observing his unusual purchase. He had decades of experience with horses from his veterinary practice, but he had never owned one personally. He watched Apollo's behavior carefully, noting things that surprised him about the horse's intelligence and unusual focus on specific people who visited the ranch. When Dr. Lisa Williams came to perform Apollo's initial health examination, something extraordinary happened. The moment she stepped out of her truck, Apollo became intensely focused on her, approaching and repeatedly nudging her left shoulder. With unusual persistence. "Mr. Johnson," Dr. Williams said, initially annoyed by Apollo's behavior, "this horse doesn't seem to understand proper boundaries." But as the examination continued, Apollo's behavior became more intriguing, then annoying. He kept returning to Dr. Williams' left shoulder, gently but insistently nosing the same spot over and over again. "You know, Dr. Williams," said thoughtfully, "I've had a small lump in my shoulder that I've been meaning to have checked. It's probably nothing, but Apollo seems unusually interested in that exact spot." David's veterinary training kicked in immediately. "Lisa, I think you should have that looked at right away. I've read about dogs that can detect cancer and other medical conditions. What if Apollo was trying to tell us something?" Dr. Williams initially dismissed the idea, but Apollo's persistent, focused behavior was unlike anything she had seen in her 20 years of veterinary practice. 2 days later, she had the lump examined, and the results shocked everyone. Early-stage melanoma that would have been easily treatable now, but potentially fatal if left undetected for another year. "Mr. Johnson," Dr. Williams called David immediately after receiving her test results. "I think your horse just saved my life." As the weeks passed, something remarkable began to happen. Apollo started gaining weight and muscle tone at an impressive rate, without the stress of competing with other horses for resources or dealing with the chaos of the holding facility. He was able to eat peacefully and develop the physical condition that had eluded him in captivity. But more importantly, Apollo began to display qualities that David had never expected from any animal. The Mustang seemed to understand that David was elderly and moved carefully around him, never showing the unpredictable behavior that made most horses potentially dangerous for older people to handle. When David worked in his garden, Apollo would often graze nearby, as if keeping him company. Most remarkably, Apollo appeared to be scanning David regularly, sniffing and gently investigating different parts of his body with the same focused intensity he had shown with Dr. Williams. Could a horse really detect medical conditions that humans couldn't sense? David was about to find out in the most dramatic way possible. David's neighbor, Anna Rodriguez, was the next to experience Apollo's extraordinary abilities firsthand. Anna ran a therapeutic riding program on the adjacent property and had been skeptical when she learned that her elderly neighbor had bought a wild Mustang. "David, you need to be careful," she had warned. "Wild horses can be unpredictable, especially around older people who might not be able to react quickly." But when Anna came to check on David one afternoon, Apollo's behavior toward her was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The horse approached her immediately and began persistently nudging her abdomen with gentle but insistent pressure. "I'm sorry, Anna," David said, trying to pull Apollo away. "He's been doing this with people lately. I think he's trying to tell us something, but I'm not sure what." Anna laughed it off initially, but Apollo's behavior was so focused and persistent that it made her uncomfortable. That evening, she mentioned the incident to her husband, joking about the pushy Mustang next door. 3 days later, Anna felt unusual abdominal pain and decided to see her doctor. The examination revealed early-stage ovarian cancer that had not yet shown any symptoms. Her oncologist told her that early detection had likely saved her life. Word of Apollo's unusual abilities began to spread through their rural Nevada community. People started coming to David's ranch, not to see a pretty horse, but to observe an animal that seemed to possess an extraordinary medical sense that defied conventional understanding. Local news reporter Michael Thompson heard about the story and decided to investigate. When he arrived at David's ranch to interview him about his unusual Mustang, he expected to find an interesting but minor human interest story. What he discovered was something that would change medical detection forever. "Mr. Johnson," Michael said as he set up his camera equipment in David's pasture, "I have to be honest. When I first heard about your horse, I thought this might be another feel-good animal story. But after talking to Dr. Williams and Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm wondering if we're looking at something much more significant." David nodded as Apollo approached them calmly, immediately focusing his attention on Michael with the same intense scanning behavior he had shown with others. "Apollo's special, that's for sure. But I think we're just beginning to understand what he's capable of." Apollo spent several minutes investigating Michael, paying particular attention to his chest area. The behavior was so focused and persistent that Michael found himself thinking about a chronic cough he had been ignoring for months. "Has Apollo ever been wrong?" Michael asked, growing increasingly uncomfortable with the horse's attention. "Not yet," David replied. "Every person he's shown this kind of interest in has ended up having a medical condition that needed attention." Michael left the ranch that day with more than just a news story. Prompted by Apollo's behavior, he scheduled a long overdue medical checkup. The results revealed early-stage lung cancer that was completely treatable, but would have been fatal if left undetected for another year. Michael's first call was to Dr. Elizabeth Foster, an animal behaviorist at the University of Nevada, who had spent decades working with unusual animal abilities. Dr. Foster had worked with dogs that could detect seizures and diabetes, but she had never heard of a horse with medical detection abilities. "Elizabeth, you need to see this horse," Michael said when he reached Dr. Foster. "I think we're looking at something extraordinary." Dr. Foster agreed to visit the ranch, expecting to find typical animal behavior that had been misinterpreted by hopeful owners. What she discovered instead amazed her completely. "Mr. Johnson," Dr. Foster said after spending an entire day observing Apollo, "I'd love to spend more time studying Apollo's abilities. What I'm seeing here is unlike anything I've encountered before." David was happy to cooperate, especially when Dr. Foster explained that understanding Apollo's abilities might help other people recognize similar gifts in animals they encounter. Over the following weeks, Dr. Foster spent time documenting Apollo's extraordinary medical detection abilities. She brought several volunteers to the ranch, including people with known medical conditions and healthy individuals, to observe how Apollo responded to each person. The results were remarkable. Apollo consistently focused on people with diabetes, detecting the condition by sensing their breath and skin. He identified people with various types of cancer with incredible accuracy. Most remarkably, he could sense cardiovascular problems, high blood pressure, and other circulatory issues, often alerting people to conditions they didn't even know they had. Apollo's abilities are beyond anything I've seen in medical detection animals, Dr. Foster told David. He isn't just detecting one type of condition. He's demonstrating a comprehensive medical awareness that seems almost supernatural. Dr. Foster became curious about Apollo's background and decided to research his genetic lineage. What she discovered amazed everyone involved. Apollo was descended from a legendary Mustang line that had lived in the Nevada mountains for over a century. Horses that Native American tribes had specifically sought out for their unusual abilities to detect illness in both humans and animals. Apollo represents a genetic line that we've nearly lost, Dr. Foster explained to David. His ancestors were the horses, that tribal medicine people used to help sense conditions that couldn't be seen. These bloodlines have been largely eliminated from wild herds because government programs haven't recognized their extraordinary value. The most dramatic demonstration of Apollo's abilities came when David himself suffered a heart attack while working in his garden. David had felt some chest discomfort earlier that day, but Apollo had been unusually agitated, repeatedly nudging David's chest and refusing to leave his side. When the crushing chest pain struck, David collapsed, and Apollo immediately positioned himself next to David, providing stability while emitting a loud, distinctive whinny that was unlike any sound David had ever heard the horse make. Anna Rodriguez, alerted by Apollo's unique distress call, found David conscious but weak, leaning against the horse for support. Apollo had remained motionless the entire time, apparently understanding that his owner needed both physical and emotional stability. That horse didn't just provide comfort, Dr. Jennifer Cross, the emergency room physician, told David later. Based on your neighbor's description, Apollo had been trying to warn you about your heart condition for hours before the attack occurred. His behavior may have prevented a more serious cardiac event by keeping you alert to the symptoms. The story of how Apollo had predicted and helped during David's heart attack spread throughout the medical community. Cardiologists who had initially been skeptical about animal detection abilities began taking serious interest in Apollo's capabilities. Word of Apollo's extraordinary abilities began to spread naturally through the medical community. Dr. Foster shared Apollo's story with her colleagues, and soon doctors and medical professionals from across the region were making the drive to David's ranch to see for themselves what this remarkable horse could do. The media attention brought unexpected visitors to David's small ranch, wealthy horse collectors, veterinarians curious about Apollo's abilities, and families dealing with undiagnosed medical conditions arrived, hoping to meet the horse who seemed to possess an almost supernatural gift for detecting illness. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Richard Williamson, a cardiologist from Las Vegas, said during his visit, "I've heard incredible stories about Apollo's abilities. Would you consider bringing him to our medical center? We could learn so much from studying his methods." David looked at Apollo, who was peacefully grazing nearby, then back at Dr. Williamson. "Doctor, with all due respect, Apollo works best here where he's comfortable and stress-free. But you're welcome to bring people here who might benefit from his gift." The rejection of opportunities that could have made David wealthy puzzled many visitors, but David's neighbors understood. They had seen the bond between the elderly veterinarian and his remarkable Mustang, and they knew that some things were worth more than money. But Apollo's impact was about to reach far beyond one small ranch in Nevada. Dr. Foster continued spending time at the ranch, documenting Apollo's abilities and learning about his unique genetic heritage. Her work attracted attention from veterinarians and animal behaviorists who had never seen anything like Apollo's comprehensive medical detection abilities. "Apollo represents something we've lost and forgotten," Dr. Foster explained to visitors who came to observe. "His abilities show us that animals can be partners in health and healing in ways we never imagined." The transformation was most remarkable in how people began to view gentle, unusual animals differently. Horse trainers across the country started paying attention to horses they might have previously dismissed, wondering if they too might possess hidden abilities that could benefit human health. Tommy Walsh, the auctioneer who had sold Apollo for $1, became one of Apollo's biggest advocates. "That sale taught me never to judge an animal by first impressions," he told reporters. "Now when I see a quiet, gentle horse that others are overlooking, I wonder what special gift they might be hiding." But perhaps the most meaningful response came from patients whose lives had been saved through early detection. Cancer survivors, diabetics who had achieved better control, and heart patients who had received timely treatment began making pilgrimages to David's ranch to meet the horse who had inspired their life-saving diagnosis. "He's teaching us that healing comes in many forms," David observed as he watched a group of cancer survivors carefully pet Apollo's neck. "Maybe the most important lesson is that nature often provides solutions we never thought to look for." Within 6 months of Apollo's story becoming widely known, the gentle Mustang had started what horse enthusiasts called the quote, "second a chance revolution." Horse trainers across the globe began seeking out animals with Apollo's calm temperament and unusual behaviors, realizing that what they had previously seen as problems might actually be extraordinary gifts. The transformation was most dramatic at Desert Valley Livestock Exchange, the same auction house where Apollo had sold for $1. Auctioneer Tommy Walsh, who had been embarrassed by that historic low bid, now found himself fielding calls from people specifically looking for gentle, unusual horses. "It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen," Tommy told reporters. 6 months ago, nobody wanted a calm horse with unusual behaviors. Now, people are driving from hundreds of miles away looking for the next Apollo. Maria Gonzalez, the BLM handler who had tried so hard to find Apollo a good home, was vindicated in ways she had never imagined. The Bureau of Land Management, faced with new interest in gentler animals with unusual behaviors, began paying closer attention to horses like Apollo that had previously been considered quote problem animals. Maria, the facility manager, said during a meeting, "I need you to identify every horse we've got that shows Apollo's characteristics." Apparently, what we thought were behavioral problems might actually be special gifts. Sean Brady's horse operation, built on training flashy, spirited Mustangs for wealthy clients, was suddenly facing a completely different market. Trainers who had once paid premium prices for Brady's most aggressive horses were now asking for animals with Apollo's gentle nature and unusual awareness. David Johnson found himself at the center of this quiet revolution. Though he never sought the attention, visitors, horse lovers, and families dealing with health issues made pilgrimages to his small ranch to meet Apollo and learn about recognizing value in unexpected places. "I keep telling people that Apollo isn't magical," David explained to visiting horse enthusiasts. "He's just being himself in an environment where he feels safe and loved." How many other special horses are out there being overlooked because they don't fit people's expectations? What happened next would prove that Apollo's influence extended far beyond just early medical detection. As Apollo's 4th birthday approached, exactly 1 year after his purchase for $1, David organized a celebration that drew hundreds of visitors to his small ranch. Medical professionals, horse lovers, patients, and families came to honor the Mustang who had changed so many lives through his extraordinary gift. "A year ago, I bought Apollo for $1 because I felt sorry for him," David told the crowd gathered in his pasture. "Today, I realized that he's worth more than money can measure. He's taught us that healing abilities come in many forms, that nature often provides solutions we overlook, and that sometimes the most valuable discoveries come from the most unexpected sources." Sean Brady attended the celebration, a humbled man who had learned painful lessons about the cost of dismissing what doesn't fit conventional expectations. He approached David privately carrying an envelope. "Mr. Johnson," Sean said, "I owe you an apology, and I owe Apollo something, too." He handed David the envelope. "That's funding for expanding your ranch and helping more families visit Apollo. I want to help ensure that other animals like Apollo are recognized for their gifts." David opened the envelope, stunned by the generous offer. "Mr. Brady, this is incredibly generous. But why?" Sean looked at Apollo, who is peacefully interacting with a group of cancer survivors. "Because that horse taught me that the most valuable things often come in packages we don't expect. It's time I help make sure we never overlook another Apollo." 5 years after his $1 purchase, Apollo had become beloved throughout Nevada and beyond. But more importantly, he had given David Johnson a purpose he never expected to find in his golden years. At 77, David moved more slowly around the ranch, but his eyes still lit up every morning when Apollo greeted him at the fence. "People ask me if I ever regret spending that David often told visitors. I tell them it was the best investment I ever made. Not because of the money Apollo could be worth now, but because of the lives he's helped save and the joy he's brought to our little community. The ranch had become a pilgrimage site for people dealing with serious health issues. Word had spread quietly through medical networks and support groups that there was a special horse in Nevada who could detect illness with remarkable accuracy. Unlike the chaos that celebrity often brings, Apollo's reputation attracted people seeking hope and healing rather than fame. Dr. Elizabeth Foster continued her research with Apollo, but now it felt more like a family collaboration than a clinical study. She had relocated her office to a small building on David's property, allowing her to work closely with Apollo while respecting the peaceful environment he thrived in. Apollo isn't just a research subject, Dr. Foster explained to visiting medical professionals. He's a member of this community, and his gift works best when he's surrounded by the people and places he loves. The most remarkable development came when Apollo was introduced to Misty, a gentle mare from the same Nevada mountain range. Misty had been rescued from a different BLM auction and brought to the ranch by Anna Rodriguez, who suspected she might carry similar genetic traits. Apollo and Misty's connection was immediate and profound. Within months, Misty was displaying her own detection abilities, although hers were primarily focused on emotional and psychological conditions. She seemed to sense when children were struggling with anxiety or depression, providing comfort in ways that perfectly complemented Apollo's medical detection skills. "We think we found Apollo's perfect partner," David said, watching the two horses graze together. Misty helps heal hearts while Apollo protects health. Their first FO, a beautiful colt they named Spirit, was born on a crisp spring morning 3 years after Misty's arrival. From his earliest days, Spirit showed signs of inheriting both parents' extraordinary abilities. At just 6 months old, he was already showing unusual interest in people with medical conditions, gently nudging visitors in ways that reminded everyone of his father's early behavior. Sean Brady, true to his word, had quietly funded improvements to the ranch that allowed more families to visit safely. He installed comfortable seating areas, accessible pathways, and a small visitor center where people could learn about Apollo's story without overwhelming the horses. "I want families to be able to bring their children here," Sean explained. "Apollo's gift isn't just about detection. It's about teaching kids that being different can be a superpower." The local community had embraced Apollo and David as treasures to be protected. When word got out that some pharmaceutical companies were pressuring David to sell Apollo for millions of dollars, the entire town rallied around him. Local businesses posted signs supporting David's decision to keep Apollo at home. And the mayor even declared an official Apollo Day to celebrate the horse who had put their small Nevada town on the map for all the right reasons. Anna Rodriguez had expanded her therapeutic riding program to include Apollo visits where her students could spend time with the famous detection horse. Children with Special needs seemed to connect with Apollo in ways that amazed their parents and teachers. Apollo doesn't see disabilities or differences, Anna observed. He sees each child as perfect, exactly as they are. The kids sense that acceptance and just bloom in his presence. Dr. Lisa Williams, whose life Apollo had saved by detecting her cancer, became the ranch's unofficial medical coordinator. She volunteered her time to help families who came seeking Apollo's assessment, ensuring they received proper follow-up care when Apollo indicated potential health concerns. Apollo gave me my life back, Dr. Williams said. The least I can do is help other families get the medical care they need when he alerts them to problems. The most touching regular visitor was 8-year-old Emma, whose diabetes Apollo had detected when she was just 5. Emma's family had brought her to the ranch as a desperate last resort when doctors couldn't figure out why she was constantly sick. Apollo's immediate and persistent attention to Emma had led to the diagnosis that saved her life. Now, Emma visited every month, bringing Apollo carrots and spending hours simply sitting with him in the pasture. Apollo seemed to monitor her blood sugar levels during each visit, alerting David if anything seemed concerning. Apollo is my guardian angel, Emma told the local reporter. He watches over me and makes sure I stay healthy. David had started keeping a simple journal of Apollo's detections, not for scientific purposes, but to remember the people whose lives had been touched. The leather-bound book contained hundreds of entries. Early cancer catches, diabetes diagnosis, heart problems detected months before symptoms appeared. But David's favorite entries weren't about the dramatic medical saves. They were about the smaller moments. Apollo comforting a grieving widow, calming an anxious child, or simply bringing joy to an elderly visitor who hadn't smiled in months. As Apollo approached his 10th birthday, he showed no signs of slowing down. If anything, his abilities seemed to sharpen with age and experience. Spirit, now a gangly 3-year-old, was already showing detection skills that amazed even Dr. Foster. Spirit might be even more gifted than his father, she confided to David. He's learning not just from genetics, but from watching Apollo work. It's like he's being trained by the best teacher in the world. Misty had given birth to a second FO, a filly named Grace, who seemed to have inherited Misty's emotional healing abilities. The ranch now hosted 3 generations of horses with extraordinary gifts, creating a unique healing environment that drew visitors from around the world. On Apollo's 10th birthday, David organized a quiet celebration for their extended community family. Unlike the large public events that had marked previous anniversaries, this gathering included only the people who had become part of Apollo's daily life. The cancer survivors he'd helped diagnose, the children he'd comforted, the neighbors who'd supported his story from the beginning. 10 years ago, I bought Apollo for $1 because something told me he deserved a chance, David said to the small group gathered in the pasture. Today, I know that he's given us far more than we ever gave him. He's shown us that healing comes in forms we never expected, and that sometimes the most valuable gifts come from the most unlikely sources. As the celebration wound down and the sun began to set over the Nevada mountains, David found himself alone with Apollo in their favorite spot by the old oak tree. Apollo stood peacefully beside his chair, occasionally nuzzling David's shoulder in the same gentle way he had that first day at the ranch. "You know what the best part is, Apollo?" David said softly, stroking the horse's neck. "You didn't just save lives, you brought people together. You created a family out of strangers and showed us all that being different isn't something to fix. It's something to celebrate." Apollo whinnied softly as if he understood every word. In the distance, Spirit and Grace played in the evening light while Misty watched protectively. 3 generations of horses carrying on a legacy of healing that began with a $1 bet on an unwanted Mustang. The gentle horse who had been rejected by everyone else had created something more valuable than any research program or medical breakthrough. He had built a community based on acceptance, healing, and the radical idea that everyone, human or animal, deserves a chance to show their true worth. In a world that often judges value by appearance, behavior, or conformity to expectations, Apollo's story remains a powerful reminder that the most precious abilities, healing, detection, and the capacity to save lives, often come in forms that society initially rejects. Sometimes the best investment you can make is believing in someone or something that nobody else wants. If Apollo's incredible journey has touched your heart, please share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video, subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories, and tell us in the comments about a time you discovered hidden value in something others overlooked. Your story might inspire someone else to look beyond the surface and find their own Apollo. Remember, the most extraordinary medical miracles often come in the most ordinary packages.